Good to go? Okay. I'm usually right on, so no worries there, unless there's a lot of Q&A. Okay. Well, howdy, y'all from Atlanta, Georgia. That's as southern as I get. It is really good to be here today, honor and privilege. My name's Jeff Multz. I run North America for Dell SecureWorks. In case you're not sure where the Dell logo came from, SecureWorks has been in existence for the past 14 years. Dell acquired us 2.5 years ago. We are a managed security service provider, so I'm going to share a lot of stories with you, anecdotal perhaps, real to many of you. I'm going to apologize for two things. One, you probably won't sleep well tonight. Unless you're in this game day to day, and some of you are not. Some of you are here for education. Some of you are here on behalf of your businesses. And some of you just want to explore some cool stuff. So the lions, tigers, and bears, as I call it, of malware is incredible. I cannot believe in my 28 years in existence as an IT professional that the stuff we're seeing every day. In 2003, when I joined SecureWorks, we were sifting through, analyzing, cataloging 100,000 security events a day. Today, in the past 24 hours, 50 billion events. I thought ignorance was bliss before joining SecureWorks. I'm going to tell you, holy cow. Passion and fighting the fight is what we do. I'm going to talk about the viewpoint of where we are, and then I'm going to dig into the Threatscape itself, and that's perhaps why you're here. Some of you might have listened to that podcast. It was meant to provoke and evoke a visceral response, as this talk is meant to do to you. I'm going to share with each and every one of you, if you have a business or data you're out to protect, what you were doing before this talk is not enough. There's a lot of basics I will share with you, and I'm not trying to talk down, but most hackers and attack victims today can be handled, understood, remediated, stopped in the easiest possible ways. I love capture the flag stuff. It will teach you what the bad guys are perhaps doing at a very baby level. No offense. I'm going to challenge all of you that are play hackers, if you will. I hope none of you are the bad guys. The actors, the hackers we see, are not doing good things to us, and they tend to be a very organized crew. So the presenter before me who said, team up? Absolutely. This is not a sole, hand-to-hand, one-person game. I'm going to dispel a lot of myths. I hope all of you use this for your own security awareness training. This is my 4th talk this week. It started in Albany, New York, then New York City, and now here. This is what I do. I'm away from my family for one reason. I need to change what's happening in this market. As an evangelist, I hope you'll agree with most of what I share with you. I'm going to share at the start of this. You're going to be incredulous. You will fight me to the very end. By the end of this, I think you'll say, oh my gosh, maybe this really is happening here and now. I'm going to share with you a counter threat unit research team. It's a cool term from the 24 show, but it's the coin marketing of our 70 incredible malware reverse engineers and researchers. We have to take responsibility at Dell SecureWorks of not waiting on manufacturers of blinky blue lights and technologies, no offense, but they can't keep up with the hackers. You have to be ahead of the hackers to beat them. We are living out 6, 12, 18 months in the future. What's in rear view is already too late. How many in your universe 0 days are there in this present day era? Hundreds? Thousands? That's the reality. On the best day of coding as a programmer, I had 1,000 bugs I knew of in my code. And I had tens of thousands I didn't know of. How many of you try to QA your own code? Doesn't work. You're blind. Sorry. You can't see the trees through the forest. It's not possible. You can't think like a bad guy well enough because they are very creative, and we're going to share that with you. Our platform, our technology, we monitor business networks, 3,800 across the globe. This is not just a small bank or 10 companies, 3,800, and we're adding 3 to 5 a day. So this visibility that I'm sharing with you is from true global and knowledge that we've attained daily. Many of you will fall under these regulations, the alphabet soup as I coin it. I will pontificate this to the end of time. To be compliant does not mean you're secure. If you look in the paper for every data breach that you will read about today or in the future or in the past, every one of them was compliant to some degree, and it didn't keep them out of the paper. So I hate using compliance for anything other than a framework. To say I got that check mark, I'm compliant, it's not secure. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're secure, you will be fully compliant. I'm going to talk about security as an approach, compliance for free. This is the nightmare. The bad guys get in via vulnerabilities. These are known or unknown vulnerabilities. And I don't mean to talk down. This is a wide, varied audience. For a second, show of hands, how many of you are the network admin, CTO of your businesses? None. You all, what are you? Any executives, CEO, CIO, CSO, CFO? Okay, cool. What are the rest? Architects, software designers, software engineers, programmers? Excellent. Well, again, sorry to hit you in the belly. This is what we deal with, vulnerabilities. The bad guys love to exploit these things before you even know about them or before you can correct them. I'm going to challenge all of you in the development side throughout this talk. Your IT staffs, or whether you're part of it, as far as security, are doing real things elsewhere instead of watching the house. It's a 24/7 gig, folks. And our businesses are getting hacked when we are not watching. Do you know there's a doubling of attacks every weekend? Every American-based holiday, it almost goes 3x, 2.75 times the number of attacks. Because small to medium business can't watch 24/7. That's what we're facing. Our job as a managed security service provider is to protect assets. I'm going to go fast because most of you are developers or programmers or in the software side. But I need you to understand the view of what we're watching so that you understand what we're protecting, hence that code. But there's 3 asset types all of us need to understand. The first 2 you know, money, data. The one that we always forget is computing resources. The bad guys love stealing computing resources, using it against you, spamming your best customers, creating botnets, stealing data, traversing across the globe, using you against you. How bad for your business would it be if you were spamming some interesting content to your best customers? It would be bad. You have a cost to secure it. The bad guy's cost, unfortunately, is always below your cost to secure it. Their cost to steal it, because they have gargantuan resources, time, energy, they can exploit things we never knew to exist. And our cost rivals theirs because we are gurus and experts, and I hope you will find some interesting tidbits in what I'm about to share with you. And our job is to make the criminal cost past the value of the asset itself. These are not dumb people. They're about business. And we're going to talk about why are they creating this? What are they doing? We have 4 towers of services, so you understand we have a multiple-pronged approach of viewpoint. Monitoring of networks or managed security, risk consulting, penetration tests, IT audit, web app testing, code reviews. We do extensive amounts of this. Risk consulting, this is the gaps to your regulations. And threat intelligence is what I'm sharing with you today. I hope you've heard of us. So from a credibility viewpoint, we're known globally. Gartner rates us in the leaders quadrant, the finest position you can be in the marketplace. SC Magazine, I have to thank some of you for voting for us. That's the Reader's Choice Awards. And Mid-Enterprise, if you're in a small to medium business, we've won twice back-to-back as far as innovators. Now this is a slide of the business problem. Start in the upper left. The malware is doubling and tripling on an ongoing basis. Again, I shared with you 100,000 events at SecureWorks to 50 billion events a day. Slight growth. I think it's a real challenge if you're trying to code against this. Lower right, the most embarrassing portion, I could challenge all of us. Most breaches are not found by you or us. Us being the collective, we. It's found by a third party, which can be a very embarrassing day. We need to find it before they do and protect against these exploits. And here, I often get in the boardrooms I present to, Jeff, it's a global 500 problem. It's the biggest companies. It is, but it's also a small to medium business enterprise issue. 40% of all attacks. And it's growing more dramatically for the small business than it is the large enterprise. Can you understand why? Do any of you have any idea why?
They have less money to spend on security.
Yes, less money. Sir?
Because their business partners in that as a threat vector that the big business isn't thinking about. In fact, they do business with those people, and that's a trust issue.
Exactly. So partners and partnerships. I'm going to talk about weak links, which include people, not just technology. I'm going to talk about weak links, who you're partnering with. No offense, I'm going to throw someone under a major bus, and someone's not a person. Small cloud vendors are the nightmare of existence. I love to coin them. Two guys, a dog, and a garage. No offense if some of you are them. I'm sorry. We have seen countless attacks and remediation we're having to do. Incident response is what we call it. Because some business trusted a smaller business, and their security at that other vendor is nowhere near even the security of the company buying the service. Be very cognizant of this. Your entire network security could be rendered useless by whom you partner with. Case in point, so it's less abstract. Just up the road here, it's not American, it's unfortunately Canadian if any of you are. I'm part Canadian, but I walk into a backup company up the road. And they were very proud. They show me a closet where their computers are, but no one had a key. I mean, they literally just opened the closet. And I asked them, what security stuff do you have? Now, it's a techie term, stuff. They were very proud of their blinky blue light. I won't even mention the brand firewall. And it wasn't even a next-gen firewall with all the cool other stuff. And I said, do you have intrusion detection or prevention? They said, what is that? And someone's laughing. Thank you. I need to have some brethren here. This is astounding to me. And I said, how many customers back up to your cloud, back up to your service? They said 1,100. Are you kidding me? Really? And they said, just the other day we had a problem and we're stumped. Some customer called us that they got a virus from us. And we weren't sure how that might happen. Now, this is the CEO telling me this. Thank you. Yes, we see a lot of this. Okay. For those of you that didn't get it, I'll take you offline after this and we'll talk. The threat landscape, what are we facing? How is and why is this? So I talk about why and why now a lot. And the misnomers and myths might not be prevalent amongst developers. So I'm sorry. This could be a little bit boring for a few minutes. Humor me. It was notoriety. It was programmers that were really gifted. My namesake, a guy named Jeffrey, invented some really cool worms in the 90s. That was cool. He bragged about it. It made it around the world faster than any other worm at that time. It moved to fame. He bragged about how cool his malware was. It's not there anymore, folks. It has moved to money. And it has moved to national interest. This is a thing I coin, in adjacency. And this is the war of today. Let me pose rhetorically a scenario. And this is indeed happening. This is not just theoretical. If you were another country, would you attack the American government? You might, but let's say that's not very wise. That would be an act of war. And the same is true vice versa. So what do? You go after maybe the national military base of that country. But might they be fairly to very good in security posture? Probably. So what do? You go after the adjacencies. Who does business with those companies? Look in this room. I promise you, it is some, if not all of you. I was dealing with a hotel chain in Dallas, Texas, and they said, so how does this relate to us? They couldn't get it at the board level. And I said, sir, the CEO, with all due respect, will you tell me beyond a shadow of a doubt, your high visibility hotel chain, no one from the U.S. government has ever stayed in one of your hotels? And he turned very pale because it just so happened the President of the United States was in his hotel at that moment. Not bad, huh? Can any of you relate to this? Are you a bank, a credit union, a software provider? For anyone that does business with these peeps? We're seeing record numbers of attacks against law firms, accountancies, technology companies. Is it for what you've got? No, it's for what you're doing business with. Part of my passion. It's the only way I can wake people up. It's truly a war. And it is about these 2 points. Money, big return on investment. Huge. Are they going to get caught or killed? Not likely either. Malware, malicious software. We use technologies against ourselves, whether we inadvertently or intentionally or oops, click on that link. Do any of you click on links? Do any of you know anyone that clicks on links? Okay, thank you. I knew I'd get somewhere. I feel like I'm the tech support for my family, okay? My brother, I love him to death. I've got nephews and nieces, and they click on links. My daughter clicks on links. Come on. We're going to talk about Project Scareware and Adware and all this other nasty stuff that's happening. We've all seen it. It's moved now to advanced threats. The odds of them getting through are pretty high. It's not happenstance. Denial of service, distributed denial of service. Any of you relate to that? If you're related to banks and credit unions, we're getting spanked by Iran right now. Just a fact. Cyber warfare, it is real, it is here, and it is now. It's not theory. And yes, the term APT is overused, but it truly is an advanced threat, and it's bloody persistent. They don't give up. And by the way, the symptom of all of this, besides the most obvious, you're offline, slow networks. Have any of you been on or used a slow network? Yeah, thank you. In all honesty, does it mean you have malware? No, but you might want to check because you could. That's the only symptom we're seeing. All these cool blinky lights and technologies, you're going to see a little cynicism in me come out. Am I saying they're useless? No, but almost. Let's think for a second. If you were a bad dude or dudette or group of bad dudes, wouldn't you buy every commercially available technology anyone in this room could buy? Of course you would. Wouldn't you have a programmer focusing on breaking any one of those blinky things? Because at the end of the day, it's not a blinky blue light, it's software. The thing, maybe no one in this room will accuse of this, firewalls are nothing but software on a box. Everyone thinks it's a piece of hardware, not we in this room. Any of you attend RSA, the large security conference annually? I had the honor, not this last RSA, but the one before, heard Robert Mueller, FBI director. He says these quotes, these are his quotes. The middle one is what I face in the market. Jeff, we're small business. Jeff, we're in Podunk, USA. Or Podunk, Canada up here. They have this ignorance is bliss approach, but it couldn't be farther from the truth. On the internet, what does it remove? It removes time, space, / distance, doesn't it? I can get to you faster from Germany on the internet than I could 2 streetlights away, especially in Detroit, Michigan. And everyone attacks Atlanta. I'm telling you, your traffic here is really bad. But New York was the worst. It took me 2 hours to go through the tunnel, Lincoln Tunnel. It's crazy. But it is about these 2 quotes here. Any of you heard the, it's not, if it's going to happen, it's only when. And it's a very mirrored approach. Look in the mirror. It's the truth. It's not FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt. Understand what we're facing. The bad guy's job is to break whatever technology you have, to get in, get out, and not raise the alarms. As this quote says on the bottom. This came from Wall Street Journal, 2012. Great quote. It is very timely. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by reading everything here. The bottom line is, their job is to understand whatever technology you want to throw at it. The one thing we hold against them is human-to-human combat. It's not the technology that's going to fail. It will. But do you have enough humans to throw at that distance? And hence our mission and purpose at Dell SecureWorks is to monitor the network, beat the bad guys, find them, help you remediate both code and technology, and remove their malware if it ever got in. This is something every one of you will relate to. I try to pick topical, really as close to timely as possible. These are faces. These are real faces. They're sad individuals. But their job is to get in, get out, and get caught. Not so much. We see this in record numbers. If you've ever been in a browser and it says, you have malware, click here to remove it. Have any of you ever seen that? Come on. Every one of you should raise your, yeah. This is the thing I'm talking about. Do anyone you know ever click on that, or God help them pay that Visa to remove the malware? Just by clicking, you get the malware you didn't have. Do you understand that? You had no malware, but when you click on it, they deliver the malware. And when you pay them to buy the antivirus program that removes it, it doesn't. And of course, more malware, and your data leaks. That's a fact. What we're finding is a lot of country states, and it's not the countries that are most intuitive. I'm going to show you a chart in real time from last month. It shocked me. I think it will shock all of you. It is about competitive advantage. Other countries want to copy what we're doing. Why would that be? Money, innovation. We're seeing pharmaceuticals getting under siege. Because if someone else can deliver a drug 30 days sooner, do you know, imagine how many billions of dollars that means? And possible trademark patent loss. Organization's brand. Oh my gosh, if I were a country that had a company just like yours and I could damage you, my company wins. You see, my company wins. And this we see a lot. Leapfrog. I call it the frog approach. I get in this business. I really want to get to who they do business with and who they do business with. This is a fact we're seeing today. They want you not because you're you. It's who you might do business with or connected to. Now, this is the one I get fighting in the room. Maybe not amongst programmers, developer types. The reality of this is what we're seeing today is fourth generation. It evolves. It changes. It's not constant or perpetual. I wish it was. We could predict, and it never changes. It's not that way. We can predict, and I'm going to guarantee one thing. It's going to change from this in the next few hours. But we've coined this fourth gen because we're in the fourth generation of hacking and technologies and techniques. It used to be someone had to write malicious software. It's put guys like programmers like myself out of business. We don't have to write it anymore. Do any of you do eBaying? I do a lot of eBaying. Yes? So the eBay of malware, you go online to this place called Wabi Sabi Lobby. You got to love these names, folks. It's an exploit auction house. Have any of you ever visited it? Shaking heads? You might not want to, but if you want to, if you're curious, just do it on a machine you don't care if you get compromised. It delivers some really nice malware. But you go online and you bid in the morning, and you see if you win the malware at night. The opening bid for a worm, this is depressing if you're in software sales. It's $150 to buy a worm today. Put out my credit card, will you? Does anyone see humor in that? Okay, thank you. Gozy Trojan, a nice banking Trojan is about $8,000. It's not a lot of money, is it? Zeus, the god of all Trojans and all its variants, are about $12,000-ish. Now, it won't close at that. The closing bid will be many times that. But it's fascinating to watch this stuff happen. So, now you bought this thing, this malware. You bought this malware. What do you do with it? This is crazy. You don't even have to distribute it. You can hire iframes, and they'll distribute it for you. You want 1 million machines compromised? It's 10 grand. Sign me up. Then, the harvesting of the data. You don't even have to harvest the data. The data is sold to the real evil empire, 76service.org. Please do not visit that site. You bid on social security numbers and identities there. You can buy 1 million social security numbers for $15 million. This is downright depressing. I'm worth 15 bucks, folks. You're worth 15 bucks. I could swear I'm worth more than that, at least to my family. And social networking. In this crowd, maybe not so much, but I'm one of the only guys out there that's really going public. Be careful, not don't use. All the social networking stuff where there's good guys, there's bad guys doing bad things to good people. The data we find out there to be used in social engineering exercises is appalling. Look at some bank presidents, what they put out there. And I always crack a joke. Do I need to know you're in Hawaii right now? Probably if I'm a robber. Tell me when you come back you were in Hawaii. Wouldn't that be a better approach? Just that simple. Crazy times. Now, if you're not sure the magnitude of this problem, here it is. If Hackers Incorporated were a legitimate company, not what they are, Fortune 500, you got Walmart at 400 bill, Hackers Inc. would be number one by a magnitude of this, 74 times. And that was last year's take. I challenge all of us. We could retire the U.S. deficit in a handful of years if we could harvest the money from Hackers Inc. How about we just put them out of business by being more secure? We are making change, and I'm about to show you a map and some data here. I always am plagued with data. Why and why now plagues me. I always want to know, and I'll stay up all night. My wife doesn't appreciate it, but if I get on a problem, until I solve it, it drives me crazy. Can any of you relate to that? So here was a problem. Traditional crime dropped for the first time in history, normally in a downward economy, and I'm not making light in an area that has been plagued in an economic. Every downward economy in American history since 1929, traditional crime, which is gunpoint, robbery, etc., skyrocket, except one, the one we're in. If we could agree, downward economy hit in 2007, we had the exact opposite occur. Traditional crime dropped. Fortunately for me, I have lots of data and didn't have to look far. Here's the why. For the first downward economy, we have some really cool malware. That is a lot easier because I'm not going to get killed or caught, as I said earlier. Zeus, the net loss of Zeus exceeds traditional crime. If we add the other 2,200 variants and flavors of classes of malware, it would be an obnoxious chart off the top. Is this real to everyone in the room? I hope it is. Here's another Mythbuster. I often get, Jeff, we need to watch everything inside. We have some bad people inside we need to be concerned with. And I immediately ask a question. And I say, do you employ more bad people in your firm? Or are there more outside of your firm? And I'm not dealing with a Fortune 500 either. And they go, wow, I hadn't thought of that. Okay, well, wouldn't you want to bolster your external defenses, a.k.a. your perimeter, before you worry about the insider threat? Here's why. Outside threat, 59%. Inside threat, roughly 18%. 18 is significant. But if I only had $1 to spend, where might I need to spend it? It's easier to keep them out than to get them out. Have any of you cleaned up a virus, worm, or spyware on your networks? Was it fun? No, it's not fun. And how many times does it flare up? You ever have Conficker as an example, or a Conficker type? Yeah, I call it whack-a-mole. You kill one and 20 more show up. Those are not fun. And how many hours of your time could have been spent on better things, even if at a concert or swimming somewhere? Not into cleaning that stuff up. So the reality is, if you bolster your defenses, it should have never come in the first place had you done it right. Agree or disagree? Second, breaches. Are we worried about laptops stolen and documents? Yes, we are. They're significant here, a lot of them, right here. But look at this big pie. That's hacker activity. It is more likely we will get robbed without ever knowing it. That's a fact. Until it's too late. And you go, oops. Now this is a funny graph. I often get, Jeff, look at the date in the upper right. It's Q1 2012. I don't want to get worried about what dates these are. We watch this stuff at Dell SecureWorks. I more wanted to show you that not only are we tracking by type of business, but we see an evolutionary trend on an ongoing basis. First and foremost, normally if I ask you what you're seeing here, if you were a manufacturer, you're feeling pretty sick right now. If you were in legal, you're probably feeling pretty good. But I'm going to reverse it. The ones that keep me up at night in our firm are the ones on the right. Those are targeted attacks. These are mass attacks. It doesn't mean the month after this trend didn't reverse. The bad guys send out mass attacks and feel out the defenses, and then the poor souls that they find respond in some way, non-desirable. They then name in their attacks. We see line 1 of code being name of poor soul. Actual named businesses. What the bad guys do is they scan you on a perpetual basis. They penetrate, perhaps. They social engineer a lot. The most and oldest trick of the trade. Any of you see pen drives, or USB as they're called, in your parking lots? Please don't plug them in. Please don't. It's the oldest game. You could buy them by the gross, which is 144, right? For a few bucks now. So we're seeing whole cartloads being dumped in parking lots with nice malware on it. Are you telling your customers, your employees, not to touch those? Who wouldn't plug it in? Home or at work? Is this real? I hope it is. We're seeing these basics. Don't plug in thumb drives, USB drives. And they're getting attacked like this. Law firms galore. And we forensically diagnose after the fact what happened in incidents, and we're finding these things. We even find the poor soul that did it, and they go, yeah, I did it. I didn't know it did, blah. Okay? That's what the bad guys do. Now, this is the graph I alluded to. It changes ongoing. Some of these are truly at a country level our friends, but I'm going to tell you hackers love it. There's one trend here that I need to point out. Notice the English-speaking countries. Notice where Russia is, which probably would have come up in your first two. Notice where China is, definitely in the first two. But look at these: India, Ireland, Peru, U.S., Turkey. Those are not necessarily intuitive to all of you. Am I going to say all the bad people are in these countries? No, I'm not. I'm going to say we've made it so bloody easy in these countries to hack those machines to then use against us. This is the us. These are the activities coming at us. We all know blending and blinding rules. You bounce around. We've seen the movies. We understand this. It's rarely the bad guy or girl is sitting wherever that machine is. We all understand that. Now, if I've done my job, and if all I do is change the way you look at the internet and do business on and the way you code, I'm doing my job. This is the wall of shame. If I've done my job, you will never appear on one of my slides, unintentionally or intentionally. These are some companies. Some of these are governments, city, local. Some of these companies are gone. It's really unimportant what I put up. There's hacks of the day. In USA Today, there were 3 today. Wall Street Journal announced 2 very high visibility breaches. Do any of you read the paper and not see 1, 2, 5, 10? It's the game of the day. The bigger the dot here, the larger the data breach. Some of these you're going to shake your head. And yes, their names are here. If you do business with them, be cognizant your data is at risk. Was at risk if they haven't bolstered their defense. These are some massive data breaches. These are dollars known, publicly disclosed. I'm sure there's a lot of dots I couldn't put up here because they're hypothetical. And we don't know the size of the breach. Is it real to everyone that the loss is substantial and could be to your brand, reputation, and perhaps the viability of a business? So I beg you to think differently. Clearly, if you unplug from the internet, it would be a very secure posture. Agree? Now, all of us as individuals can unplug for our vacation week, but can you really unplug your businesses from the internet? I haven't met many or any recent history of the talks I've given. Now, you've decided to do business on the internet. How do you do business on the dirtiest place to do business? We have to coexist, don't we? So we're going to talk about this. We've touched on all this. This is what we do, the day-to-day battle. I've removed some of the pictures because they pose as actors, if you will. We don't need them disclosed in these public forums. One of our chief founders, John Ramsey, is right here. Our CISO, a retired colonel from the U.S. military, Doug Steelman. Colonel Hensley runs our counter-threat unit, retired U.S. Army. We have a lot of ex-military, and they know a lot, and of course, non-classified is known by SecureWorks. We share data to and fro. We can't do it alone. 70 guys versus millions of bad people, not so much. But I can say to all of you, we've never seen in any other organization 70 of these minds in one place at one time. This might be a good place to recruit, so I'm going to put some ideas out there. If any of you are looking for employment in a good firm doing the good thing against the bad guys, beg you to go to secureworks.com. We have over 400 open headcount. We're growing dramatically. In 2.5 years, we've doubled in size to 1,700 employees. And we've doubled the size of this group here because the threat is changing that fast. That's how bad it is. We used to see change in a week. We're now seeing change within an hour of the threats we're facing. This is the Threatscape and evolution. It started out as script kiddies. We've all heard that term. Kids bored out of their gourd, doing this for fun. It has evolved clear to advanced persistent threat, which, by the way, will break through any technology you throw at it. I promise you. Next gen included, any blinky blue replace brand here. It doesn't matter. It is not the technology. Be cognizant, I've seen more shelfware in my career than I could care to brag about. We all know it started with ERP, went to CRM, and today it's SIM tools, Security Information Management. Bad guys love you buying tools because they already know how to get past them. So these threats are truly advanced, and their job is to use your own technology against you, a false sense of security, if you will. Do any of you feel secure with the controls, the technology that you have? You've admitted kindly that you found virus, spyware, worms on your network. How good did your malware detection work? Yeah, I'm going to use some language. It pisses me off. I bought all this cool technology, but I'm still finding it. How good was it? Really? I went to RSA this past year. I've never seen more snake oil sold in my career. I almost got thrown out of more booths in the history of my existence in technology because I just couldn't sit there and agree. It was complete bunk. There is no perfect technology, and you need as many layers between you and the bad guys as you can possibly afford. And at the end of the day, be sure your code is secure. Take a security approach, not a compliance approach. As a programmer, my gift and job was to get code working fast. But I'm going to tell all of you, Open Kimono, was it very secure? Not so much. SQL injection, does that keep anyone up in the room? SQL injection, SQL injection, yep. The view we have, we're seeing a record number of SQL injection and cross-site scripting attacks. Please understand this. It is a global threat, not just in American or not just Detroit, Michigan, or not just Windsor, Canada. It is global and it is evolving, and people, the gangs, are global. They're not sitting all in one place. You might have 2 dudes in Detroit, 16 in Belarus, a guy in Chile, 14 in China, and they're one band of evil characters. And they're evolving current code. They're taking that nasty Trojan, Gozi, or evolving Zeus. Do any of you know you can buy the source code of Zeus? Please don't, but I'm just letting you know. It's crazy. You can license the Zeus malware. And it's a darn good Trojan, I'll have you know. Real life examples, so this isn't the theory of application. On the left are some of the names you've seen. Flame and Black Hole keep us up at night. When we take over a network, we say it lights up like a Christmas tree. 47% of all our new customers had malware on their network, and the only thing they said to us, Jeff, that explains a lot. Our network was slow. We found a porn site being hosted out west on a credit union network. And no, I get a question, someone snarky in the crowd, so was that their side business? No, it wasn't. They did not know it, and they said, the CTO, greatly relieved, of course, said, wow, that's why it got slow. The network got slow at 6 p.m. every night. The game over Zeus Trojan, oh my gosh, we're finding them on a plethora of home machines. So here too is another threat, BYOD, right? Bring your own device. Does this keep anyone else up at night? Are you secure? Are you using a sandbox approach to your devices? Are you even certifying your devices? Don't open your networks unless you've got to. And then be very cognizant, there's malware for every platform. I get in a crowd this size and they're very proud of their Apple things, okay? Sorry, I work for Dell. There's nothing Apple in my house. But the reality is, no, I am not on an Apple. I'm the last guy they're going to kick off the BlackBerry network. I'm very proud of that. That's not an advertisement for our Canadian friends. It's just that we have a security approach. But what I'm going to share with all of you, there's malware for all platforms. And some of the nastiest malware we've seen have come out for the Apple platforms, not just a machine. It's that I thing, okay? There is no way to escape it. There's no better browsers. I get asked all sorts of fascinating questions. The only way to beat them is be more secure than them. They're going to get frustrated at some point, and they're going to move on to easier prey, because there's always someone easier than you. At least that's my hope and intent. These are not dummies. Remember that return on investment. If you increased your cost for them to steal the asset, and your value of the assets down here, they're moving on. So all I ask, irrespective of platform, irrespective of browser, irrespective of operating system, be vigilant. So I'm going to challenge all of you. Who's watching your firewall right now? I had 3 guys run out in New York City. They freaked out on that statement. Please don't. This is a really good conference. The bottom line to this is it's got to be watched 24/7 vigilantly, or you will lose. The bad guy's favorite line 2, 3, and 4 of code is line 2, shut off antivirus. Line 3, shut off content filtering. Line 4, open a high firewall port. That's a fun one. They have to phone home somewhere. And they get real mischievous when they use your 443. Any of you familiar with that port? You might have it open right now because you use encrypted. So the bottom line to this is these are not dummies. But would you notice that a high firewall port just happened to be open at this moment? And some of you might say yes, and some of you might say, oh, blank. Yeah, this is what we're facing. And then targeted exploits. They target specific vulnerabilities, behavioral or code-oriented. SQL injection. Here was a mind-boggling thing. It used to require a guy or a gal that really understood SQL. I'm an SQL programmer. So the reality of it is, it's not hard. I think in it. But now there's even tools. I think some of you could buy one at this conference. I saw it. You can buy a tool that randomly checks SQL injection. That's pretty mind-boggling. The first day my development team showed me that, I almost grabbed the garbage can. It made me really sick. It used to require a human, to attack that code. Not so much today. It's all automated. Now, some of you might be business folks, some of you might not. This might not appeal to everyone, but at least I want you to be cognizant of this. It is about risk cost. Again, unplugging from the internet, there's very low to no risk. On the internet, well, there's a whole bunch of risks, so I've categorized it in 4 ways. You're the target in the center. This is not bad guys. This is business case, business risk. The lower right, I always start, compliance-based risk, the lowest form of life. Thou shalt do this. By the way, every regulation you read about is so common sense, it's mind-boggling. Did I really have to be told I need a firewall? Really? Did I really have to be told I need intrusion prevention? Really? Did I have to be told I need antivirus? You follow. That's regulatory compliance. Now that we're done with that, let's talk about the real stuff, liability. By a show of hands, how many of you know or believe you have cyber insurance at your business? Well done to those that did raise their hands. I would advise everyone that has a business needs cyber insurance. I don't sell it. I'm not here pontificating that. But because of all the data I've shared with you, you will have some issue some point and you need coverage. But by the way, many of you that apply for cyber insurance might get declined because your risk is too great. Ironic. You have to mitigate that risk. You have to monitor it 24/7 before they'll insure it. It's like your home insurance, maybe not in Detroit. I was in Albany, New York, and I'm going to tell you, someone said we don't lock our doors here. So that metaphor doesn't work. In Atlanta, we lock our bloody doors. And I have an alarm on my house for my family. You know what I'm saying? Well, the same applies here. You want an alarm to watch 24/7 your network, and cyber insurance is demanding it. Libel. How many of you could prove that you weren't liable if a suspected data breach occurred? Could you prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the data wasn't leaked by you? We've dealing with tens, if not hundreds, of prospective customers in just this pickle. Forensically, we're having to go on site to diagnose if the breach occurred. And in many cases, there's nothing there to tell us if they did or didn't. Ouch. Then there's a lawsuit. Direct loss. Some of you were kind enough to share with me that you found the Trojan spyware. You've invested time. That to me is a direct loss whether you admit to it or not. Humor me. Keep a logbook of every minute, hour, day you spend remediating, I call it the poopy diapers. This stuff can be eliminated. I had a CTO do this because he was incredulous. He said, Jeff, I'm spending, an hour a month. I had him track it for 90 days. Can any of you guess how much time was in that logbook? Thank you for your guess. It was 188 hours. If it were 1,000, I think he'd be looking for a job. He might. In this case, he was the entire network security team of that organization. So very good point. 188 hours. If we take that as just a hypothetical average in this room, wouldn't you be able to find better stuff to do for 180 hours of your time in a quarter year? And if you multiply that by 4 quarters, ouch. Now, what is that worth to your business, and how much opportunity cost did it cost your business? That's a lot of money. And the last one is usually the province of the chairman of the board, the CEO, and board of directors, reputational risk. We're finding companies vaporize due to a breach. I hope this is real to any of you. I hope it's not too conceptual or abstract. I met with a board of directors of a small manufacturer, and he quoted in the past week, Jeff, our reputation is worth 10x our revenues, 10 times our revenues, because I've been doing this for 85 years. And without going for overkill, Warren Buffett said it best. It took the reputation building decades. On the speed of the internet, how fast could it be wiped out? He said this to our cyber terrorist czar of the United States of America. That's pretty real. So I think of doing business differently. I need you, I beg you to do the same. I get asked, Jeff, okay, all this abstract stuff, how can you monitor through the internet? What is it you do? How do you do this? Just so it's not conceptual. We deploy an appliance to collect the logs at your locale. At the top there is perhaps your network, 3 firewalls, 3 IDSs, 50 or so servers. Yours might be smaller or larger, it doesn't matter. That's 500 million events in a week, folks. If you've ever looked through logs, it's a bloody nightmare. We then divvy things up into 3 buckets. Negative filter is not security relevant. Most traffic on your network is completely benign and legitimate. Breathe easy. Where you get the I gotcha is the positive filter. I am positive. You do not want it on your network. It is malicious. I get accused by my own customers, of course we're paying you to do that. But the real value is the anomalous. It's never before been seen. And by the way, it's a really bad day if we're seeing 50 billion events and we haven't seen it before. In this case, 1,600 of them in a week per customer. We consolidate all that to about 5,500 events, 5,633 specifically, and we categorize them into red, yellow, green, and we call you on all red incidents to help you remediate it. We're not a bell-ringing service. If you forget everything I've shared with you, this is your take-home. I like to button it up, tie it in a bow, and make it very tight and succinct. First, all of you, in your businesses, invest in intrusion prevention. It is oxygen on the internet. And I'm going to clarify that. It is not meant to be just on your next-gen firewall. Next-gen firewalls have firewalls and IPSs and a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm going to talk about what I'm speaking to here is separate from that firewall. From a different manufacturer than your firewall. You need a check and balance. We've seen next-gens get compromised in minutes, and their IPS found it after the firewall. I can't say this without any total certainty, 100% certain. You need this layer of prevention. Educate your employees. I hope you'll use some of this. This is going to be online. I'm more than happy to email this prezo to you. Just don't publicly post it, please. There's some data in here we don't need bad people to get access to. Protect your assets. I can't tell you how many technology discussions I have and they go 10 minutes later, oops, I forgot to tell you about. Have a complete inventory of your true IT assets. IT assets include your human resources, employee data, not just valuable patient or customer data. Here's a neat one for everyone in the room. Reduce your security costs. How many of you have a flat IT budget? Year over year. This year or last. Declining IT budget. The rest of you have an increasing budget? I haven't met many of them. God bless you all. That's great. Now, remember, use an enablement of compliance. Don't just be compliant. Be secure. It is a 24/7 gig. If you're getting asked, why are we having to spend more than all these blinky blue lights you've been asking for? Because it's around the clock. And the last point, I guarantee you've never heard before, because this is just very personal to me. It's the 50-30-20 rule. If you had to have a to-do list, this would be it. Out of the 50 billion events we monitor daily, 50% of those, hence the 50 number, 50% of those are seen by the firewall and next-gen layer of your networks. So how important is it to monitor your firewalls, folks? It'll be very important. Then the 30 is from that separate layer of intrusion prevention, not on the next-gen firewall. It's probably the most important 30 of your careers because it keeps it out. And the last but not least is the 20. Those are your servers, routers, switches inside that need to be monitored. And I'm going to open this up to questions that you might have. We're right on time here. Any questions? If not, thank you very much for your attendance. I do hope this changes the way you look at and use that internet thing. And please, please be secure. Thank you. Thank you.